Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week we hear what's left to do for the Hull C, plus we get updated on ship armour, signed distanced field shields, and docking. So before we begin, I would just like to thank my latest patrons, Captain Shaggy and Justin Dilar. Thank you guys so much for all the support. So this week, Inside Star Citizen began by taking a closer look at the cargo decks coming in 3.11. Now I will say it is a little disappointing that there will be no actual gameplay associated with them for 3.11, but these are a vital stepping stone to physicalized cargo, which will be a major milestone. So although it is a shame for 3.11 that they're pretty much empty shells, it'll be worth it in the end. Anyway, for cargo decks, they wanted a point of interest for players who are focused on the cargo career and all that will entail. Cargo decks are to be port stations that create a unique cargo experience. These will be major stations where all of the cargo gets taken to and then is distributed to smaller locations from there. The exterior has cargo storage areas that you can actually fly through. That was an intended thing as well. And as you enter them, as you come in off the elevator, you can see there is a storage warehouse area to the right and the admin and shops etc. to the left. This is also where the cargo guild rep will be located. The shop will have admin for trading, shops for clothing and equipment, and ship rentals. And the audio team also work to try and create a busy, large industrial vibe to the decks. They are very, very cool, and I do look forward to exploring them. But as I say, they are just a visual update for 3.11. I am very much looking forward to seeing these evolve, and they are a big addition for expanding the cargo mechanic and career. Seeing a Hull C coming in, docking, and then loading up or unloading while players store cargo, they rent ships, they take on missions, they sign up to the cargo guild. It will be pretty epic. Anyway, the final part of Inside Star Citizen was pretty much just a rundown of some of the features coming into 3.11, so I will leave that playing in the background. So this week we had a Calling All Dev with John Crew, the vehicle director, talking specifically about ships, and there was a lot of good information to be found. First off, they started speaking about docking and giving us a quick update in regards to that. There are 3 different types. There's ship to ship, which is kind of a direct, hard attachment like the Constellation and Merlin. Then general ship to ship docking, which was pretty much any ship with a docking collar connecting together. And then there's ship to station docking. They are working on the Merlin and Constellation docking first, then ship to station docking, and then ship to ship docking. The reasons for this order is because the Constellation and the Merlin docking actually solves some ship to station docking problems, and there is more reason for ship to station now than ship to ship. For example, this will allow for ships that are waiting for ship to station docking like the Hull C. Ship to ship, they say, is just a little less important right now. Anyway, first up is the Connie and Merlin hard docking. They are at the point now where the vehicle can attach to one another and get in and out. They're now just dealing with the physics issues that have come from this. The way it will work is that a pilot will communicate to the target ship, this being the Constellation, and they will have to grant you permission to dock. Without the permissions, you won't be able to dock, basically. You then get docking UI that gives you an idea of how far off each axis is and roll, so that you can line up the ship, and then the very few last meters it will take control and auto-guide you in. Personally, I think that sounds exactly how I was expecting it to. I quite like the fact that there's some manual and some auto. I don't know how difficult it will be manualing the whole way, but as a starting point, I'm sure that's going to be fine. Now, ship to station has a working prototype that we actually saw a lot of on Inside Star Citizen. They're just working out some of the technical hurdles. It is great to hear an update for docking, and it does sound like they have made some incredible progress on this, even since we saw it on Inside Star Citizen. Finally, Constellation owners will be able to launch their Merlins, which has been a long time coming, but more importantly, with space stations now getting these cargo decks, combine that with full persistence hopefully by the end of this year, allowing for physicalized cargo, we could see the Hull C come along, as there isn't a lot left to do for that ship. More on that a bit later on. So the next question was to do with physicalized armor, armor penetration, and the signed distance field shields. They are all in active development at this moment, not just applicable for ships though. For example, the physicalized armor and penetration is needed for player armor on the FPS side of things, which is quite exciting. Right now, they are working on the initial parameters and tuning them to make sure that they are working as intended. Chris Roberts has actually been heavily involved in all of this, and the physics guys are doing a lot of the groundwork. They're working back and forth with the actor team and physics guys, trying to put builds out and tweaking as and where needed. Plan is to get a small set of ships using this new armor penetration, physical armor, testing how it works as this moves away from the traditional health pools for ships and converts them into actually physical damage and location-based damage. So penetration and over-penetration will also be worked on. For signed distance field shields, in recent builds, all of the ships have these SDFs generated for what will be their shield bubbles. Basically, the re-entry effects that we see now in 3.10, they were sort of a simpler test case to ensure that the signed distance field tech is working as intended. The shield's core tech is pretty much there now. They're just working on visual effects to make the shields look as good as they can, as they can't use any of the old effects. So it sounds like it'll be completely different to what we have seen so far. And again, I know they keep saying things are in active development, but this does sound like it's very close to completion. If it's just visual effects they need to work on, then that is exciting. Anyway, next question was to do with the manufacturer-specific HUD visuals, and they are actively working on this as well. The Aegis and RSI theme will come first. The Gladius will be the first, with it being in Squadron 42, and it will be a fresh HUD overhaul. All the ship HUDs and MFDs will have manufacturer-themed styling to make them more unique to each manufacturer, and styles will be very different to what we have now. Very excited to see that, but it sounds like Aegis, RSI are getting theirs first, and then the rest later on. Next question was to do with spawning ships in ships. Now, this is semi-active development, they say. They've got it working internally, but it's not the same as something like the Constellation of Merlin. They're just waiting for a more complete iCache before they can finish that off, which makes sense. And there's a lot of other features that are requiring iCache before they can really expand on these things. Hopefully, the iCache will be implemented by the end of the year, but we will see. Anyway, next question was to do with the Hull C. Now, ship-to-station docking required animated physics grids, which they have now working, so they can progress further internally on the Hull C, but there's still a couple of things needed. The room system needs to be able to scale. For example, the central tube will have oxygen inside, so it needs to be able to fill as it extends. They also need a way to trigger the state machines on ships individually, which is scheduled. This will allow for ships to change, like how the landing gear and the VTOL mode will split. And finally, they need to update the cargo system. The Hull C cannot store 4,000 plus single SEU units of cargo, as it will just cripple performance, so they are creating larger containers for the Hull C to carry. I think those are the containers that we see on cargo decks now, those large freight looking containers. So instead of carrying 4,000 of them, they'll probably carry 100. Anyway, final question is to do with the Redeemer, ? Now, it is an actual gunship, not a dropship. We got to see some 3D concept images of it. They've kept it as Aegis and have kept those sort of nutcracker wings, but they have adjusted certain areas to make it more Aegis. Drop seats have gone. The lobster wings can rotate to VTOL. It's got 2 front turrets, 1 pilot controlled, 1 manned, a manned turret at the rear, and a manned turret on the top. Now, it is not actively being worked on. It is having a pre-production concept pass, and they will take it back through the entire ship pipeline to ensure that it is all up to the current standards, which is definitely a good thing. But anyway, that was Calling All Devs. Some really good answers there to some of the questions we have. In particular, docking, armor, shields, the Hull C, all these things are so close to being finished, and a lot of it is just really waiting for iCache. So fingers crossed, get that complete this year, and things can really then start ramping up. Anyway, let's move on. So also this week, CIG posted an Alpha 3.10 post-mortem, which breaks down the good, the bad, and the ugly from 3.10. And finally, the latest jump point is available for all subscribers. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.